Hey everyone, this is Michael. I'm with Real Street Performance, and right next to me is my dragster. I bought this with Brian and Pablo. We're all kind of slow here, so we wanted to build something really cool, really fast, and on the cheap. None of us really have a ton of money, and we were trying to think of how can we go fast and go down the track and have a good time. And there goes me scrolling on Facebook Marketplace, and I said, well, look at this, guys. And we found this awesome dragster, fully chromoly cage, came with a transmission and a couple of other parts, and we said, let's just pull the trigger. 3,500 bucks between the three of us? Hell yes. So that was it. So on this journey, we're gonna bring you through everything from the start of the process to the finish of it to when we actually get there and we're out there racing. We wanna put this Parts 2JZ that Pablo put together to the test and actually go out there, run it as fast as possible with as little money as possible into it, because that's what it's about. It's about going out there, spending what you can and what you have, and having fun.
Before we dive into the video today, we do want to let you know there's a special sale going on right now at realstreetperformance.com. When you guys go to checkout, use discount code TAXGOALS to save some extra money on your build. Let's go check out the rest of the video now. Talk a little bit more on Michael's earlier points. This is a 2JZ powered dragster, and a lot of it stemmed from obviously just having a whole bunch of used parts between all of us. Brian has a personal car that uses a 2JZ, and Michael as well. I'm more of a Honda guy, so a little bit out of the world, but they had a whole bunch of components that we put together. The King of the Castle name is kind of a joke.
I think it's a joke, yeah. We were sitting in the office and we're standing there and we're like, man, we gotta come up with a name for this thing. Like, it's a cool dragster and whatnot. And like, we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then all of a sudden Pablo goes, he's like, King of the Castle. I was like, it's King of the Castle.
The Borat thing.
I was like,
like
yeah, and I'm like, that's it. That's the name. That's what we have to make it.
Great success.
Hopefully nobody's like, oh yeah, they think King of the Castle. No, we're just being silly. We're out here trying to have fun. We thought the name was really cool and it kind of stuck and everyone laughed about it, and it's just an enjoyable, cool name.
In the realm of dragsters,
yeah,
this isn't gonna be a top runner or anything.
No, I mean, we don't know that.
No, it's not gonna be a top runner.
We don't know that.
But it's gonna be a pretty cool car. I mean, Brian, Michael, myself, we all have personal projects, and like you said earlier, it's gonna be like the easiest way to go quick without having to do this crazy $200,000 or $300,000 drag car.
Cheap and fun.
You know? Brian, you wanna talk a little bit about the transmission stuff? I know that we had a Glide in it that came with the chassis, but now we have a TH400.
Originally we were gonna keep the Glide in here, but because of the low displacement, one of our team members thought that wasn't a good addition to this, so he donated this Turbo 400 to us.
Yeah, that was super cool. The management team were like all excited about it, and they knew kind of what we were doing. And the moment we set the trans, it was like, no,
it's a two-speed power glide.
Yeah.
With an engine like this that it obviously needs RPM, the drop between first and second gear would have just been killer to the rods. And we have aftermarket internals in it, but if we could make it live a little longer, their thought process was, all right, let's help them out and give them a transmission to use. So we're super stoked to use this TH400 transmission, but it's something out of this realm. I mean, we didn't really think to use that originally, given that it was like a really budget-oriented spare parts build, but that's a super cool part.
So to us, it's still cheap.
Yeah, to us it's still cheap, but it's a Turbo 400. It's from ATI. It's a lockup. It has dump valves. It's meant to, you know, really take this to a realm that we didn't think it was going to be in. Originally, it was going to be like, oh, let's make X pass for this many seconds, and now it's like, oh, okay, like now we're getting more serious. Like this thing can go really, really fast.
What was the math when we worked it out with like 1,000 horsepower?
Yeah, 1,000 horsepower with this gearing should net us low sixes, which is terrifying at like 215, I think it was, or 220, which is,
it's crazy.
None of us, neither of us have ever been that fast. Like we were saying before, I've never really gone fast before. The fastest that I've gone personally is in my GS300. I've done, I think, a 9-something rolling at around 152. And that car makes, you know, 950 to the tire. It's like, it's quick, but like, it's not what this is gonna be. I mean, what about you? I mean, obviously you have your Integra.
Yeah, but nothing like this. I mean, it's gone a 930 at a $150, you know. Yeah. It's a quick car, but it's not a fast car.
And I don't know, have you gone the fastest between us?
We've all been in the 9s. My R1 went high 9s. That was a long time ago, so.
So this, on its lowest setting, is gonna be faster than any of us have ever gone before.
Yeah.
That's exciting and scary at the same time.
We collectively got this. It's a collective project, and there's a couple other people involved. but we want to have it set up so that we can all take turns driving it.
That is the truth, yeah.
If Brian wants to do a quarter-mile hit, by all means, I think I'm gonna stick to little eighth-mile hits because I don't have the stones for that. But
We'll start with wastegate spring pressure and low horsepower. And
if it's gonna go that fast,
I
that's
think it was
crazy.
at like 500 or 600 horsepower, it should still run 8s.
Given the calculator with
given
this
the
weight,
calculator, so-
wheelbase, tire size, everything.
It's pretty sick. I'll talk about the turbo setup, which is pretty cool. So this is actually my personal 7675, again, all used parts. This was off of my GS300, and we're gonna use this. This should make us and net us pretty easily 1,000 horsepower if we wanna run over it. We'll be running it kind of on the lower side of what the turbo can make, which I think will be good for us. And if we need to have headroom, we have headroom. The manifold is an RTEC manifold that they provided to us. Again, thank you RTEC for that. We had to modify the wastegate location a little bit. It normally would turn down a little further in to go into a Supra chassis or any sort of chassis of that regard, but we modified it so that we can put the wastegate outside of the chassis and run the exhaust pipe up this way.
Otherwise, it would have looped 180 degrees almost,
Correct.
as how it would have needed to fit in, like you said, a chassis, and it would have hit right there on the side of the chromoly. So we didn't want to have to cut
it
the
wouldn't
frame.
have worked. I used this manifold actually personally in my car, and it was perfect with this turbo prior. So it'll be the perfect setup for what we need. It'll make all the power that we need. And again, shout out to RTEC for hooking us up. Good guys there, man. Really, really good team. Obviously, you see our intercooler and charge pipe, which Pablo made. He put together for us. This is going to have 2 injectors in here, and you want to talk a little?
Yeah, I got chewed out on the internet when I posted that on my Instagram.
Oh yeah.
But it's just because it's not seen as often in like door car stuff.
Yeah,
But
and you can explain it.
this is something that one of the guys here who has experience with high horsepower dragsters in the past kind of wanted us to implement this. So it's a 2-injector fuel injector injection for the charge pipe with an individual rail by itself. Essentially what it does is it injects fuel of your choice into the charge air before the throttle body, and it cools down the charge since we're not using an intercooler. Now, some high horsepower alcohol dragsters that are turbocharged will do something like this or not run an intercooler or injectors at all. It's not something that's a street car. You're not gonna be heat soaking an intercooler. You're not gonna be going rounds, driving around in circuits and stuff like that. So on these quick single hit units, it's fine to do something like this, but it's totally out of our realm. Something that we're gonna be able to learn with. And the ECU Masters ECU that we're gonna be using is compatible with having 8 injectors. So we're gonna be able to control everything through that ECU without any problems.
Which will be neat.
So it's new, it's different. We're gonna be playing with this on the engine dyno eventually, and we'll try to get all that ironed out before it goes back into the chassis and to the track. But it's completely weird. Like, it's not something I'm used to. It's cool seeing though.
Yeah, it's new to me too. So we're gonna most likely run 2 separate fuels, probably ethanol for the engine running, and then for this specifically for that charge air, we'll most likely use a methanol. So we're gonna have 2 separate tanks, which we have. They're not fully mounted, but they're over here.
Yeah, footprint section.
Yeah, there's gonna be 2 separate fuel pumps that'll run to those. We're gonna be running Deutschwerk stuff, which again, this is another sponsor that came on board, which is amazing, and we're extremely thankful for it. Deutschwerks provided us with a fuel rail, injectors, pumps, and filters, fittings, lines, like everything that we needed for it. It was super cool, and again, thank you so much to them. But we're gonna be running that stuff. It'll be running to both of the fuel tanks. It's gonna come up, feed here, feed the rail, and we'll control everything in such a way that we can cool that charge air, make the power that we need, and have kind of like 2 different fuel system setups. Pretty cool. It's a learning curve for the 3 of us.
Yeah,
so
something
it's
different.
pretty neat. Yeah, definitely pretty neat.
Another cool thing that we were running on this, it is a wet sump system. It's the OEM oiling. So with a
We're gonna get a lot
dragster,
of backlash for that
it's not a great idea. This thing will more than likely wheelie on very low power. We talked to this one friend of ours recently who's very heavily into the dragster world, and she was like, yeah, 1,000 horsepower with this wheelbase, it'll wheelie no problem, like instantly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of scary.
It's a little
but
scary.
It's pretty cool. I mean, a wheelie car that we put together, whatever. But part of it was, okay, with a wet sump, since we're not doing a dry sump, it might experience some crankcase downfalls, you know? So PHR has this really nice vacuum pump crankcase alleviation system, which is gonna aid with keeping the wet sump somewhat happy. We're not gonna run it super hard like
Hopefully
we were talking
keeping our
about.
bearings happy. That's the goal.
Yeah, and I mean, we can point at me once the bearings fail eventually.
We're not gonna point at him, even though he built the engine.
It'll be okay. It'll be okay. But this kind of stuff is really awesome. PHR hooked us up with a whole bunch of components. It's a cam-driven vacuum pump, which it's not as common for the JZs. in this type of environment because they'll do a dry sump and it'll have that scavenging built into the dry sump, but it's something that you could use in a regular car as well, and it'll aid with the life of your block and your whole engine actually, so that's pretty cool.
And like Pablo was saying, they provided that to us. They provided us the valve covers, oil cap, block off plate for the the cam block off. A little mix of everything, and again, another team that's on board that we were super happy with. Same as TurboSmart, who gave us a blow off valve and the wastegate for this, which is sick and just so thankful. You know, we built this engine, Pablo built the engine really, but this is kind of similar to your standard RS 1600 that we sell as a package here, right? So it's a Toyota block, this one. So it's a billet main cap, ARP main stud engine with a rod and a piston. It uses a CP piston, an RS 1600 piston.
Literally just stuff that we have laying around.
It's stuff that we had laying around, but it's very similar to what you would get if you pick something up from us, right? The head uses a Brian Crowler 0304 276 cam, and the springs and retainers are also Brian Crowler. It's a pretty stout engine. I mean, you could buy something like this for yourself and it would just work, and it's a kick-ass, you know, something that you put together on your own. Pablo put it together. I mean, you took your time.
Yeah, I did all the measurements. You know, there were some things that we needed to change for clearances, but they're used components, so we kept that in mind when getting all the clearances stuff done, but it should do very well for the horsepower range that we're looking for.
Yeah, and the only real new parts in here are the Point One head studs, so shout out to Point One, thank you again, and Toyota OEM head gasket, right?
Simple.
So, yeah, simple. Block itself is an 87 millimeter block, so it's pretty wide. It's at its end of life usage, and that's what makes this even really better for all of us, because again, it's all used parts, 87 millimeter pistons, you know, all stuff that we've had just kind of laying around and put together, and you know, end of life use cycle, but not for us. Now we'll go into one more section I'd like to talk about. Stock intake manifold.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's gonna work. I promise you it'll work. There'll be some net gains and some net losses because of it. We'll lose up top. You know, a Plasma Man intake manifold and all the partners that we work with, Hypertune, Gato, they make some really, really nice parts that kind of come out and it gives you a nice front-facing deal.
But it was parts that we had literally here, so we didn't want to dish out, you know, another...
Saves me a couple of $1,000s that I don't have right now to go towards it. So let's move forward a little bit. Brian, I want you to kind of hit on the electronic side of things, talk about what we got going on. I mean, you've been kind of deep in this with Callan. Callan, who works here at Real Street, also is helping with the wiring, which thankful for him for.
Yes.
So thank you, Callan.
Thank you, Callan, yep. Yeah, we were originally, I was gonna donate my Motec, but one of the team members offered the ECU master for us. So that was given to us, and we thank you very much for that. So what we have is a 5-inch dash, a keypad, and a black ECU.
Yeah, black.
Yep, so we have to wire that all in still. Should take about a few weeks to do.
Yeah, we're in the process of getting that done.
It's pretty easy to work on because obviously there's no body on it, there's no panels, so.
Which we have a body actually here.
Yeah, we do have a body.
It's ready.
Yeah, we do.
It's not going to live as an exoskeleton, but
Even though it'd be cool, but no, we're gonna put a body on it. It'll look really cool when it's done.
So we just laid out everything that we need, all the sensors that we're running. We're gonna run some Rife block sensors in here, just make it really easy. So, and I mean, it's not a door car, so we don't have to wire blinkers, although we joke about doing that.
We have joking around about it. I only find it interesting to do it because it'd be cool to show up to some events and be silly about it on the street. So
technically, I mean, Javier has a no prep thing that he does.
Javier does have a no prep
I'm pretty
thing,
sure he has a run what you
of that
brung class.
racing channel. It's a channel that we follow here, and he's got a run what you brung class. And I feel like as long as it has blinkers and, you know, it may be registered on the street with a plate.
It's run what you brung. It's literally what you brought to the event.
What I brought to the event. Okay, cool.
We're gonna show up and just be
If we
stupid
show
one
up
day.
with this.
That'll be hilarious.
I want a thumbs up. If we show up with this thing, you gotta comment below, tell us that we gotta show up with this, and maybe we'll actually
Bring
do
it to a no prep.
a no prep, yeah.
I think honestly we'd have the biggest tire there. What is that, like a 30
I don't
something
know
inch?
if it's fair if we do that, but who cares? Let's go have fun.
It's gonna go from having fun to competitive
Yeah,
real
like,
quick.
we gotta go. It's gotta go 300 miles an hour.
Well, I think one of the coolest things about like us just building this without any dragster experience or really goals is that it is just a fun thing. You know, we're not going out to compete at like some NHRA dragster event. We're just gonna get in it and hope we keep it straight.
Yeah.
And not backwards.
We're literally a bunch of buddies trying to build something cool
Upside
to
down.
go out and have fun. Yeah, like we just want to go out and have fun with the thing. I think that that's kind of the key behind all this is there's no real end goal for it. It's go out, have fun, like do it on the cheap. You can see it yourself. Like anybody who goes out and has fun and just sees this with us, like, you know, it just is what it is.
Jump in it.
Yeah, jump in it, get in it, do a hit. Like,
Yeah.
I want Javier of that racing channel to do a hit as well. I think that he'd have a good time in it. Maybe Romeo who's behind the camera right now, this moment. Maybe we can get him to hop in this thing and do a hit.
Well, that's the cool
8th
thing
mile?
about it.
Yeah, that's the best part about this is that it's kind of for the people.
None of us are like super into this drag racing or dragster type thing, aside from just wanting to have fun.
Yeah.
So if we can share that fun with whoever just wants to come and do a hit, as long as they're a responsible person and we know that they can, you know, listen to us and take some guidance on how to do it safely, I think it's gonna be cool to share this project with, you know, the people around us.
That's the other thing too, is like, when are you ever gonna be able to do this in your life and say that you did this? Well, yeah, before this, I would have never said. I would never even have thought that we would have bought something like this. And look at where we are. I don't know, I think it's cool.
So yeah, we'll pull this engine out. We got some things made from Send Cut Send for the frame to attach
yeah.
the engine to the frame.
That was actually really cool.
Yeah,
So we
Pablo
have to
did
paint the frame.
all the welding on that one and all the fabrication for that. We got to paint the frame. So pull the engine, paint the frame, do a couple of things with the transmission, get the engine on the engine dyno.
That's gonna be neat.
Yeah, so we could break it in and actually make sure that it works the way we want, because that'll save us time and effort besides for going to the track, wasting time, doing all this and that. We get it on the engine dyno, put it back in the chassis, then we spin it around, put it on the dyno backwards.
Yeah, that'd be
and we
cool.
run it on the chassis, dyno. So that was the plan. I talked to DynoJet. DynoJet said, hey, Michael, you can run the dyno backwards. And I said, are you serious? So we're gonna run this thing backwards on the engine, on our vehicle dyno, and then we'll go to the track with it.
Yeah.
And we'll go out, we'll bring you guys, bring everybody with us, have a good time, do some hits. Our CEO of Real Street, Chris Crone, calling him out right now, he has been saying since the get-go that he was gonna be the first person to drive this because he wanted to.
Well, we don't want to say he's the oldest person here, but he's the one who's already experienced the most life. So if anybody's gonna mess up in the new dragster, we don't want to be the
So
first.
we're gonna let him drive it first.
He's at least 70.
We're gonna let him drive it first and have a good time in it. And yeah, we're excited for the whole project, and we're excited to bring everybody along. It's gonna be a multi-part series. We're gonna talk everything that we can about this thing, go through it as a whole, and we're just excited.
Yeah, we wanted to take the time and announce this on video. I mean, we've had this for several months now, which actually brings us to our next point. Like Michael said, we're gonna be pulling the engine out, putting it on the engine dyno, and doing all that jazz. Before we do that, we wanna show you guys some of the stuff that we've done in the last couple months. So we'll go ahead and put like a little montage of the engine build, the fabrication, and hopefully you guys enjoy some of the stuff you see and you let us know in the comments.